Hey guys, a little bit of a different video for you. Today I'm going to go over the gamepad that I use to play the Elder Scrolls Online, which is the Azeron Cyborg 2, or as I like to call it, I know this thing looks absolutely crazy, and it kind of is actually, but as somebody who has exclusively played games with just a controller, this has totally changed how I play on PC. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. I just want to share how awesome this thing is because I wish that I knew about this thing sooner. So today I'll go over what exactly this thing is, what it can do, why it is better than both a controller and a mouse and keyboard, and what it's like to play this specifically for ESO. I'll go over all of the button mapping that I have programmed, so if you're interested in getting one of these, you can have a little bit of a foundation on how to program your buttons for ESO. So what exactly is this thing? The Cyborg is a gamepad, meaning it's an adaptation of a partial keyboard with a joystick that you'd get from a controller. You may have seen more conventional gamepads like this one. This one is a Razer Tartarus V2, and this is more of a fixed gamepad, like it has a flat layout, linear set of keys. The only thing you can really adjust here is the wrist pad. The Cyborg obviously has keys that your fingers actually rest in, and there are keys everywhere you look. There's keys here, 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 here. There's a 4-directional button here, and with the joystick, you can actually push the joystick in, and that's a button too. Here are 2 more buttons for the thumb. You're probably thinking, what the f do you need this many buttons for? Like, this is crazy. But I'm gonna go over that in a minute, so just hang tight. P.S. I know some of you freaks out there have clocked all the freckles on my hands. So anyway, the key thing here is that the Azeron is fully customizable. So obviously I have small hands and it might look a little bit cramped, but you can adjust any of the screws here to change how close the buttons are, the angle of the fingers, how far apart the fingers are, the direction of the joystick, how close the knuckle buttons are, everything. Here's an example of what the Cyborg could look like for someone who has massive hands, aka Mr. Cujo.
And then I find out you married and you couldn't tell me. Why not tell me?
But regardless of how many keys there are on this thing, the joystick is really the best part. So if you play on a keyboard, you know, you're limited to the degrees of movement, right? You really just have the cardinal directions with the ASWD, or degrees by which you can move. Whereas with a joystick, it's omnidirectional, meaning 360-degree movement in any direction. So movement is not only easier, but it's incredibly more precise. This is also a Hall effect joystick, and without getting into too much science here, basically it's very unlikely that you're ever going to get stick drift because the joystick operates more so on magnets than physical contact like on a controller, which is what leads to that stick drift. One other cool thing here is that there are a few different styles of the joystick head that you can put on if you prefer different textures. And more importantly, you can also put on a restrictor ring for the joystick. This ring restricts the physical range of motion, so instead of fully pushing the stick forward to move, you just have to slightly push forward to get the same full range of movement. So it's faster to move and basically requires no effort. Here's a few more details on the Cyborg for the nerds out there. We should probably go over the elephant in the room, which is the price. You know, this thing is expensive. After shipping, because this thing comes from Latvia, you're looking at around $300. But before you say, oh hell no, and just close the video, I would just have you consider how much you spend on controllers. I know I've had to replace the regular PlayStation 5 controller over and over because of stick drift, and that's about $80 each time. You know, it adds up. The DualSense Edge has no stick drift, it's a better controller, but that's $200. So really the Cyborg is quite comparable in my opinion. And if you're gonna go onto PC, I'll go over why it is just totally superior for ESO especially. So why not just use a controller for ESO on PC, right? That's the easiest thing to do. You just plug it in. The game is essentially the same. You know, some of the best players in the game play on controller, right? But for me, there are a few things that absolutely suck about playing with a controller on PC. First of all, it's incredibly inconvenient. When you switch from the gamepad interface to the PC interface, which you have to do all the time, whether it's chatting, using certain add-ons, you have to put the controller down every time. This is just annoying. Also, the actual swap in the game between interfaces can be a bit buggy. Like, I've had it on automatic and I've seen it jitter as the game swaps between UIs. I just don't like this. I don't like the lag. I don't want this to happen during a trial or during PvP. Next, the PC interface compared to the gamepad interface is just absolutely faster. I'm talking about navigating around the map, especially using menus, that stuff. Doing those things with a controller, it's noticeably slower. And the actual movement in the game, actual combat, is slower as well with a controller. So there's a few things that controller users do to try to speed things up and get up to par with people who use mouse and keyboard. There's an add-on for increasing controller sensitivity in the game. I've used this. I've actually also gone inside the game files to manually increase the sensitivity and to increase the frame rate, but it simply does not compare to the speed that you get with a mouse, which is what you use with the Cyborg. It's totally superior, trust me. One other argument from people could be, well, you know, a controller is more comfortable, and I do have to agree with this. A controller is pretty damn comfortable. The actual Cyborg is surprisingly amazingly incredibly comfortable. And that's due to the fact that it's customizable and ergonomical to your hand. So really the takeaway here is that the Cyborg is really just the best of both worlds. You get the utility and speed that you would get from a mouse and keyboard, but you also get the comfort and precision from a controller. In terms of the learning curve, I am not going to beat around the bush. It is high. If you're coming from mouse and keyboard, you're probably going to pick this up pretty quickly, but if you're someone like me who has only ever used a controller, it's very hard to adapt to this at first. So you're going to be constantly misclicking the wrong buttons, accidentally hitting multiple buttons because your fingers don't know where to go, right? You're basically going to be looking like this while you try to play the game. It's taken me about a month to feel proficient at this, and quite honestly, for about a week, I was actually gonna give up. You know, 11 years of ESO muscle memory on a controller is just a really hard thing to overcome. But if you invest the time into it, it's going to click one day like it did for me, and it's incredible. I am absolutely never going back to a controller in my life. So let's talk about how I have this set up for ESO. First off, even though this thing has a billion buttons, I also pair it with an MMO mouse. This is the Razer Naga Trinity. It has 12 buttons, but you can swap this thing out and change it however you like. You can have fewer if you want. So on the Azeron software, I map each of the 5 skills on my skill bar in ESO in a linear fashion, meaning from left to right, with the main finger buttons that your fingers naturally rest in. Since there's no 5th spot, I put the 5th skill on the one that you can flick to the right with your pointer finger. Some people prioritize the buttons that you push down, but I actually prefer the ones that are just at an angle here because it feels like a controller this way and it feels like you have maximum grip. So your index finger and your middle finger have the most dexterity, so I put the most important skills like spammables or taunts on those buttons. Skills that have long cooldowns or skills that are flex spots that you don't use very often, I put that on the 5th button that you can flick to the right with your pointer finger. You can either put sprint on the pinky spot here so it resembles holding the control key on a keyboard, or you can put it on your index finger like I do. Also, you can map the same button to different inputs depending on how you touch the button. So for example, if I hit it once, it will sprint. If I double tap it, it will toggle auto sprint on. Dodge and jump are also very important, obviously, so I put these on my index and middle finger buttons that you push down. These work really well. The 4-way directional button here is amazing. I use this mostly as an interact button, so accepting quests, picking up nodes, I just click forward. I program mount to be hitting this button down because it kind of feels like I'm shifting gears in a car. I love this button. Escape is perfect on this button here, so if you need to exit a window, you can just quickly flick it with your thumb. Crouch fits very well on the pinky side button that you flick to the left. I do like the combat interact button for gameplay right here, something you interact with in the combat. Can you macro? I know there's got to be a few of you cheating freaks watching this video wanting to know. Yes, you can. Are you allowed to macro in ESO? No, it's against terms of service. Don't do it. All right, so obviously you can program anything anywhere, right? It's preference. My hands are so small that the knuckle buttons here are a bit difficult to hit naturally, so actually the compact version, that probably would have been a better option for me looking back. I like to put a lot of buttons on my mouse. I have bar swap here, potion quick slot menu, synergies here, map, target markers, some add-on key bindings like rally point for the map, hard targeting on the top buttons here. You can do whatever is most comfortable for you, and like I said, I've only had this thing for a month, so I'm constantly experimenting, and programming is pretty easy. If you need to make up a key binding, just pick a random key that's not being used, go to controls in the game, assign it in the game, and then you can just throw it in your mouse software like I do here with drop-down menus. That's just about everything I can think of for the time being. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions, so just ask me in the comments below and I'll be happy to help. Like I said, this is a game changer for me now that I've switched to PC, and I honestly think it could be for you too, so I hope this helped you guys. Also, just want to say thank you for the support you guys have given me over on Twitch, as that has afforded me the opportunity to play with new toys like this, so thank you. Catch you guys next time. Cheers.